Hey guys, welcome to another Boterns Podcast episode. With us today is Vince Nero. So Vince Nero is the head of content marketing at BuzzStream, and today he's going to share with us his BuzzStream journey and how they're helping small businesses with influencer outreach. Before we get started, we just launched our SaaS SEO Mastery Training, the course where we share the various strategies we've used to help SaaS businesses generate up to 100K in sales in just a couple months through organic search. So in order to get access, please head over to boterns.com/training. The link is also in the description below this video. All right, Vince, so welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, great. So tell us a little about BuzzStream and your mission in helping brands build a relationship they need to succeed.
The way I explain BuzzStream is it's an end-to-end outreach platform, gives you the tools to send relevant, personalized outreach, but at the scale necessary to move the needle in your campaigns. And we said it specifically, but there's a couple key words in there because we really, I think, cater nowadays to link builders and digital PRs who are tasked with this tough job of hitting link goals and coverage goals and trying to build traffic to their sites. But they're under the gun to try to do this at scale. And there's not a lot of tools that out there that let you do it. And so that's kind of where BuzzStream comes in. And I think the issue also that people face is the fact that like there's so much email spam out there. Um, that we kind of help and push, this is my message. We'll talk about this later, but like my messaging through my content is like, we need to personalize. You need to get on a personal level with people when you're doing emails because otherwise you're not going to cut through. So that's what the tool really is doing. And we actually even have a new tool, which I'll get to called List IQ, which kind of augments that a little bit better in helping you build media lists and send targeted outreach.
Yeah. Actually, you're right when you talk about personalization. All right. So, in general, who typically uses your digital PR and link building solution, and what impact does it have on their daily workflow?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a 50-50 mix. It's tough to say because people, uh, especially in the United States, I'd say, refer to link building, but they might need digital PR and somewhat vice versa. But I'd say it's still kind of a 50-50 mix of people who are really digital PR professionals and those that are doing like more traditional link building, like guest post outreach or resource page link building, the kind of stuff that like, it's kind of deep SEO, kind of old school stuff. So it's 50-50 mix. And in terms of like what how it impacts the day, I think it's just, this tool becomes a CRM and helps you um, understand like, you know, not only who you've reached out to and what the relationship there is, but also kind of just keeps track of sending the emails, helps you personalize and find details on the site that can help you personalize. And uh, that's kind of I mean, I use the tool. I was at an agency for 5-6 years, and I use the tool daily, and I can say, you know, it's a big jump up from doing it on using like a Google Sheet and something like Gmail. This streamlines that whole process and saves, ultimately saves hours and can get you a lot more links just because you can kind of see what you've done in the past and kind of iterate on your strategies, but then also lean into some relationships that you built in the past with different sites and journalists.
Right, in-house teams as well as agencies. So, when did you launch BuzzStream?
So I've been on the team for almost 2 years. BuzzStream has been around for almost 16 years. It's gone through a lot of different iterations as to like what the tool was built for. At one point it did lean more heavily into like the influencer marketing. But, we still have some of this stuff on the site, to be honest with you, because there are still some people that use it for affiliate marketing. I think right now where we're seeing the most growth is it with the digital PR and link building space. The reason I was hired is because what we were seeing is kind of overall link building the interest in link building, I think overall was kind of plateauing in digital PR. And so we wanted to kind of, and like trial sizes, the number of trials we were getting daily was kind of starting to plateau. So I was hired to kind of um, just bring more eyeballs into the brand and kind of build up the brand and build up the visibility. And I can get into that and how I've done that. I think we might talk about that later. But yeah, I would say since I've joined things, the bleeding has stopped, as it were. But we're starting to see a much better upward trajectory in terms of signups and just interest overall. And I think some of that is the market, and some of that is hopefully from the SEO and content work that I'm doing.
All right. First of all, that's really great to have been around for 16 years. That's quite a period of time to stand on your feet as a SaaS, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's filled a need, and there's not a lot of competitors in the space. And I think we've started to kind of differentiate ourselves from one or two of the key competitors. Honestly, I think our biggest competitor right now is just people who are doing this, like I said, with Gmail and like a Google Sheet. Like they don't have the scale or know how much they can actually benefit from having, previous relationships ex clearly like at their fingertips and like understanding, what templates have done well and how to A/B test things. And so, yeah, I think that's the logical next step for people. And I remember when I was at an agency, that was the same thing that happened with us. We started just doing outreach via Google Sheet. We keep track of everybody on there, and then email just with Gmail or Outlook or whatever client our client was using. And then just got to a point where we were like, we're spending so much time using all these tools. I wish there was a tool that did it all. And that's kind of where BuzzStream came in for us. And that's kind of where it comes in for other people. So it definitely fits it, solves a need. So I think that's kind of speaks to the staying power after all these years.
Yeah, and just a little more, an additional question to how BuzzStream operates. So you're saying with BuzzStream, I don't need to juggle between spreadsheets. I don't need sending software like instantly. I don't need warm up of emails. You're saying I just send on the platform, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you would sync up your email address with it. And yeah, it can send through the platform, or it could also send through your server, kind of depending on how you want to set it up. But yeah, it's think of it like a Salesforce or something, or like HubSpot in terms of like it's a CRM. So when you reach out to a website, say I were to reach out to you to, for link building or something, or I was pitching you a piece, it would show me, okay, I'm attempting to reach you, and if you've replied, it'll change that status to replied, and if you've given me a link, it'll change it to the link. Um, and then if I were to go on and do, yeah, maybe there's someone else on the BuzzStream team that is also doing outreach, and they would see, oh, I got a link here from David, so or sorry, Vince got a link from David, so like maybe I can lean into that relationship, and that opens the door for me to be able to potentially get another link. And you can see how this is super helpful when it comes to like reaching out to journalists and media where they're getting pitched all the time, and having an in with them, having a foot in the door somehow to get their attention, having a previous relationship that you can lean on just makes it so much easier to get through to them.
Yeah, just quite impressive. So I would have wished to really talk about the entire 16 years, but you've been around for 2 years with BuzzStream, so let's try to focus on that. So during this time when you've been with BuzzStream, how did you grow? How's the growth been like? And while at it, so I'm curious to know what are the strategies that you leverage to achieve your milestones during the 2 years?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. The last year has been one of the craziest like years in SEO in general.
Yeah,
But
Google updates left, right, center.
yeah, so we've kind of weathered that storm, and I can say, I actually published this in the beginning of the year, or I guess like my 1 year mark, and happy to share this with you. But like, I have this whole case study of how I essentially tripled organic traffic in just a year. Um, and it's really been a mix of a few things. I wrote content, like search-driven content, um, for some core keywords around link building, digital PR. Um, but I think the other few things that I've been doing are seem to be more effective. And it's just kind of, I think of it almost as like community building. So I started a newsletter. The BuzzStream newsletter goes out weekly. It's the BuzzStream, I give like outreach SEO tips. I give this like fact of the week, some like data study or something. And then, I share either a new posts we've written and also new videos that we have done. I've also started a podcast, the BuzzStream Digital PR and Link Building Podcast, where I'll interview link builders and SEOs and digital PRs. And then I also just am a lot more active in the LinkedIn community, I'd say. So like that, just interacting with people, tagging people, and um, you know, it's all kind of interconnected. Like I can build relationships, which then I can have them as a guest on the podcast, or um, that kind of stuff, or vice versa. I've been a guest on other people's podcasts for that reason, and it just gets the word out that way. And then I'd say the last thing I've been focusing on this year now is data studies. As many data studies as I can do. I think that's kind of going to be the future of this business, is like whatever unique data you can provide is going to help you stand out. So I want to be the source for a lot of that. I want people to know that they can trust the BuzzStream blog to deliver some interesting stuff that's going to not only show them how to do the thing they want to do, but also like show them why it's working or why it's not working and what the data is showing.
Yeah. And what challenges do you often face in terms of the adoption of your all-in-one digital PR and link building platform?
I'd say the biggest thing is like it is a very robust um, tool. Like it has a lot of features, and I think some beginners might be kind of confused. Whereas like some of our competitors are kind of more, you take it right out of the box and like they kind of handhold you through everything. And I think there are merits to that process, but I think it's also very limiting because if you don't know how to do it, you're kind of forced into um, this like cookie cutter approach. And these days, I don't think the cookie cutter approach is what you need to succeed. Um, so yeah, there's a little bit of that. I mean, we've to being totally transparent, it's like we've gotten people talking about like the UI, I think sometimes can be overwhelming. So it's little stuff like that. I think the biggest thing though, in terms of like um, barriers to BuzzStream and like is more so the adoption of like manual link building. So what I mean by that is like it is really easy to go out and just buy a backlink from a link marketplace somewhere, or do a link exchange with someone where you're just saying, "Hey, I'll link to you if you link to me," kind of thing. And those are for the most part usually guaranteed placements. And it's never a guarantee if you're pitching content to somebody. So I think our biggest barrier really is showing people that you get a lot more out of this strategy. Um, but like, it it's more time consuming, obviously, than just going and buying a link. And then also there's never that guarantee. So a product of the industry itself that is really the biggest hurdle for us, I'd say. And it's something that I'm trying to kind of combat is, link marketplaces, although they say it's super easy and that, the a lot of the metrics can be easily manipulated, so you're not exactly seeing what you think you're getting. And I just don't think a lot of the links or a lot of the websites that exist on these sites where you can buy placements are any good. They're any quality at all. And I think like high-end news links, high authority sites, those are the ones that can really move the needle. And so Yeah, it is a battle when it comes to that kind of stuff is helping people understand that like you do need to do some of the work, like if everybody can do it super easily, it's probably not that much valuable or there's not that much value out of it.
Yeah, and so you just mentioned something about the UI being a little overwhelming. You recently introduced a new project dashboard back in 2024. I'm just curious to know how does this compare to the whole project views and what has been the outcome for users? How have they responded to it?
Yeah, so this was kind of a feature that I think it was highly requested and we ultimately put it in to give like a bird's eye view on everything that everyone's working on. So like it has two real good use cases, I'd say, for an individual who's doing a lot of uh, managing a lot of projects at once. You can really get like this bird's eye view of like where each project is, which projects you need to take action on, but then also like easily go in and take the action on them. So like say you have two projects going on at once and you realize you need to build a media list for one or in the second one, you still need to send 50 emails out and reply to 10 emails. Like you can easily just click through and take those actions. But for me, when I was with Siege Media, as a BuzzStream user at an agency, I had five, six people under me, sometimes 10 people under me, and I would love to get like a view of, okay, where is everybody? What are they working on? How many links have they gotten? Are we going to hit our goals this month for different clients? So that project dashboard gives uh, the like manager view. It just makes it way easier to see that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how I present it whenever I give a demo is like, these are two problems that I had personally, and this is how they are solved. So we didn't really have that view in the past, so that it definitely solves a need for sure.
Yeah, and it sounds like a really great step forward in terms of simplifying, making link building process more convenient, right? And time saving.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say, we are in this beta launch, closed beta right now, but of this new tool that I think is really going to be a game changer for a lot of people. And it's this thing, I think I said it earlier, it's called List IQ, and it's essentially um, a Chrome extension that, it's like this media list building tool for people who are really looking to build highly relevant media lists and that allows them to send highly targeted outreach. So that kind of solves some of that problem I was saying before of like, you know, the spray and pray method is dead, the personalization. So to have success in any even link building, traditional link building methods, but especially in like reaching out to journalists and that kind of like digital PR kind of stuff, you really need to take the time to understand, who you're reaching out to, uh, personalize it to make sure it's, relevant, super relevant to them. Are they covering this stuff every day? Are they still active at the pubs? So this tool kind of helps you evaluate and build lists through like a Google News search, and then it'll pull in information like their email address, their bio, their recent articles, all the stuff that you need to quickly like assess whether or not they're a good fit for your list when you're doing your outreach. So that's kind of like our new thing we've been working on for a bunch of months now, but we're very close to launching into beta and then hopefully into general audience sometime in the next month or so.
So you're saying how it works is that let's say I go to Google search, I search for a term, and then the results that are going to appear, the Chrome extension is going to pull up those sites and give me some data on them.
Yeah, so it's essentially works that way. So like say you had created some digital PR campaign like the best cities for runners or something. You say you had a shoe company or something. You could then go to like a Google News search and you're trying to find other people who have covered similar content. So you would search something like, I don't know, shoe news or something. And then the search results will show you all the articles. And then what this Chrome extension does is you can pull in, okay, the top one, I want search result one, two, and three, they seem relevant. I'm going to pull that in, and the Chrome extension will export it into a Google Sheet for you, which you can then, import into BuzzStream or import into what, email outreach platform of your choice. But it'll also pull in their bio, their email address, and all that information that usually takes a long time to actually manually sort through.
Actually hit an impressive revenue of 1.3 million in 2024. And this is a time when you were actually with BuzzStream. So I believe you had some input into this, right? So just curious, like what learning materials do you recommend for such startup founders who are hoping to hit $1 million in annual recurring revenue, just like you did last year, 2024?
I mean, shameful plug, like I plug my newsletter, right? Because I spend a lot of time kind of showing people how I do this stuff. And like I said, I'll share this case study of the exact kind of steps I took to build the organic traffic that we did in the last year. But outside of that, I mean, there are a couple really great newsletters that I think everybody needs to subscribe to if you're interested in SEO and building, especially in the SaaS space. I feel like Kevin Indig, he has a great newsletter. I think it's called the Growth Memo newsletter. He was someone who I always followed back in my days with Siege Media. And he had some really great insights into just kind of how to think about all this stuff, especially from, if you're just starting out as a startup or if you're, more involved later along the lines. I came out of Siege Media. I, consider Ross Hudgens kind of a mentor, and he taught me most of what I know in the SEO world. So they have a great newsletter. I would just, it's kind of more about like following people and keeping on top of what's trending and what's working, because stuff is just moving so quickly now. I mean, AI is like a whole new thing that moves at such a rapid pace. I'm having trouble keeping up. So I just am trying to keep on top of people's newsletters because that's where people are sharing kind of their new findings. I'd say another good one is Search with Candor. It's a podcast. They also have a blog. Candor is an agency, UK based. It's run by these two great guys, Jack Chambers Ward. It's a great SEO, and then Mark Williams Cook, who is also a really super smart SEO in the UK. And those two guys, they talk about some really interesting stuff. And he figured out Google exploits and all that kind of stuff. So I think that the main thing these days is find one or two newsletters that you trust, that are, putting stuff out that's relevant to you, and don't try not to get overwhelmed. I mean, I'm subscribed to a million newsletters, and I almost only read like one or two of them because a lot of them share the same stuff, but that took me a while to kind of curate down. Okay, like this newsletter is probably going to be most applicable to me, so I could probably ignore most of the other ones. And if I see someone on LinkedIn or something talking about something, and then I can go back and do it that way. So, um, as you can tell, I like to have kind of my hands in a bunch of different things, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the way my brain works. So I don't know if that's super helpful for everybody, but um, yeah, I think the more you can simplify, the better. So find a couple people that you really trust and kind of just lean on them for a bit.
Yeah, and guys, we're going to provide the link to Vince's newsletter in the show notes below this video, so you can click straight and subscribe to his newsletter, so you can learn how to scale your SaaS business. All right,
Love it.
Vince, it was really great having you on our show. We really learned a lot about BuzzStream and how to go about scaling SaaS businesses. Is there something you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
No, just I think that the biggest learnings I've had the past couple days and weeks, I think, are you know, Google. I went to this conference, Google Search Central in New York City, and they had this very kind of surprising slide on their deck that said something basically saying search, don't rely on search traffic. Previous success does not necessarily mean you're going to have success in the future. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're trying to roll out more AI things, and they're trying to solve for different ways that users are searching. And I think it's really important to think beyond just Google in terms of, where you're going to get your traffic, even if you have gotten traffic from them in the past. So that's a huge kind of telling sign that the industry is changing, and to make sure you kind of diversify everything. That would be my big tip, because it's so top of mind for me right now. And I'm happy to share that link and slide and stuff too.
Yeah, we share the link in the channel. So where can listeners go to learn more about BuzzStream and to connect with you in your professional capacity as Director of Content Marketing at BuzzStream?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably my most active spot. And then, BuzzStream.com, BuzzStream.com/blog is our blog, where it's where I publish everything. But I'm also super, super active on LinkedIn. So either of those two places for sure.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Before we finish, just remember we just launched our SaaS SEO Mastery training, the course where we share the various strategies we use to help SaaS businesses generate up to 100K in sales in just a couple months through organic search. So be sure to access it. Head over to boterns.com/training. The link is also in the description below. And watch out for our next episode.